Okay, what's going on, my good people? This is your professor, Dr. Jace Austin, and just a reminder, the only the only lecture video that was required was the one from last week, the one where I was explaining the goodness, I'm sorry, the one where I was explaining the syllabus. This one is not required. All the rest of them will be optional unless otherwise stated. And the reason I record these other optional ones is just to provide an extra component to the class, to possibly give people a few things to talk about, things of that nature. But again, I know we're all busy, and also this is summer session, so you have twice the work per week of the spring and fall semester students. So, like I said, this is optional. And if you don't have the time, don't worry about it. But I will probably make it so that this can be commented on or discussed somewhere in an optional discussion board. So it's a way to interact with your classmates, things of that nature. And so, again, that's why I do it. And then also just to humanize myself a little bit. So, things that I want to say first, your grades are in for your first assignment. That was explained also in one of the announcements. So if you did not get a grade, then that means that you need to put the assignment in the assignment portal. And if you do that, then you will be assigned a grade and you will be back on the right track. You all, for the most part, followed directions very well. And then, if you had a little slip up, there were just like one or two who did not do the consent portion, and that's okay. I did not dot points for that. There's no need to. That's really just kind of a gauge to see if my instructions are clear enough. So since most of the class was able to include that consent, I do feel that the instructions conveyed what I wanted you all to do, but it's no sweat if you missed that part. Do not worry about that. All right, and there's not going to be a lot that I really want to discuss beyond that is essential to the course. Let's go ahead and just make it known that your next assignment is going to be due. This is just a reiteration. Your next assignment is going to be due this upcoming June the 23rd. This upcoming Sunday night. And it's going to be your annotated bibliography. Like I said, I'm trying to avoid giving example papers because then people just follow templates, and I want you all to have more of a discovery process than to just be following templates, because you all are librarians and therefore, or will be librarians, and therefore you will be people who discover things. So even though I am not giving an example paper, what I will say, or an example annotated bibliography, what I will say is just, spoiler alert, if you Google annotated bibliography, a lot of samples come up, and if you Google annotated bibliography Purdue OWL APA, then there is an annotated bibliography in APA format, and it explains what an annotated bibliography is. The Purdue OWL is very useful for those of you who are not familiar with it as far as learning citation and things of that nature. It'll probably get you through this course, really, if you don't buy the style guide. But yeah, having said that, yes, so if you want an example of an annotated bibliography, I'm not going to supply one. But what I'm looking for is not dramatically different from what you would find online. And also, you do have a rubric, and I will be grading on this rubric. So please be aware of that as well. And that should help get you through what's expected of you with the annotated bibliography. Also, keep going with your discussion participation. Holy crud, what is going on? And see, this is me cleaning up my language because I wanted to say holy something else, but I'm going to say holy crud instead. My throat was not bothering me until I started recording this. But anyway, that's just how the cookie crumbles. So we are going to go from here now back into looking at the modules. So, my goodness. Okay. So if we're going back in, we will see, there we go. So this is the week of June the 17th. And so you are actually now looking at those modules for this week. You'll be looking at those modules for analysis, assessment, and solutions, as well as research findings and literature of LIS. But what I'm going to actually focus on with the rest of this lecture, and again, this is just to get you all thinking out of the box, also give you all a chance to, this gives an additional chance for you all to interact with each other. Like I said, I'm going to put up an optional discussion prompt, optional, but it's a way for you all to interact with each other, get to know each other, exchange ideas and things of that nature. So one of the reasons that librarianship, I feel, and people's access to reliable information is so crucial. Excuse me, I'm going to go get some water. Okay, so one of the reasons that I feel that access to reliable information is so crucial is because it is, as we saw in some of the readings in the previous week's module, it is so essential to democracy that reliable information be out there, and that those who participate in a democracy or in a republic, because a lot of times when I say that the USA is a democracy, I always have somebody say, no, we're a republic. Fine. In that case, whatever, a republic. I don't know if there are any nationwide direct democracies left. But if you want to call the United States a republic and say it's not a democracy, that's a debate for another day. But having said that, participating in a republic or in a democracy effectively means being able to access reliable information, unbiased information, factual information, timely information. And so there are some real world effects to the lack of an informed citizenry. And so what I'm going to show you right now is a very, very, very politicized clip that illustrates this. Now, one thing I want you all to keep in mind, again, this is going to be a very political clip. It may offend some of you. It's the person who is speaking, Max Kellerman, is clearly a liberal. But it's okay if you're conservative or libertarian or however you identify, moderate, whatever. The point is not to promote a particular ideology, but the point here is I want you all to not focus on the politics, even though the politics are very biased. What I want you all to focus on is the repercussions or the weight and gravity of when somebody who has been exposed to low quality information allows that to inform their voting choices or their operation in a democracy or republic in any sort of way, or if they even leads them to refrain from voting. Because I'm a firm believer, I know a lot of people consciously abstain from voting. I'm not one of those people. I vote. I appreciate the ability to vote. And to the best of my ability, I try to inform myself prior to voting. Even though I will admit I'm a liberal and a registered Democrat, but I have voted for Republicans before. I voted for a libertarian once, but can't be much of a libertarian and a librarian, I don't think. But you may disagree, and if so, I want to hear your disagreements. That's why we'll have that optional discussion board prompt. But yes, please view this and think about the outcomes, not the politics. You don't have to agree or disagree with what Max Kellerman is saying. This is very politically charged. But just think about, hey, he might have a point as far as the abundance of low quality information and how it is causing people to behave in a republic or in a democracy. So hold on for 1 minute. Okay, also remember, whenever I am playing computer audio, I do have to put my earbuds in because otherwise the microphone echoes. So that's something that they don't teach you in library school usually, but I'm teaching you. Yes. You will have webinars, you will participate in webinars and things of that nature in Zoom sessions. In this course, well, not in this course, but in future courses with CISL and throughout your careers. So remember, earbuds so that the PC that you are working on doesn't capture both your computer audio coming from the computer as well as your computer audio feeding back into the microphone. That's how you get echoes. Just a helpful tip. And now let's go ahead and get this clip going. So we will start here.
What Colin Kaepernick was in this particular situation. I ain't backing up one damn bit. I said it, I meant it. Period.
Next.
Not only am I not backing up, I want to take it further now because Stephen A. just now and both of us yesterday talked philosophically about how you have to make a choice. You have to weigh the evidence, weigh what's in front of you, and make a choice, even if you feel like the choice is suboptimal. Because if you're waiting for everything to be perfect, it's the enemy of the good. The perfect is the enemy of the good. Just make the best choice you can. If it means incremental change, fine, whatever. But we spoke broadly philosophically about this. Now I want to talk specifically about, because Colin Kaepernick here, I'm angry about it, is so outrageous. The only thing I can think is that he is susceptible to low-quality information. You know, the internet means we have a lot of information, but if you don't have the faculties, if you don't have the ability to process it and sift out what's good quality information from low quality information, you are susceptible to the kind of conclusions Colin Kaepernick has drawn. Let me be specific. He says systematic oppression of I guess, black and brown lives, right? That's what he was protesting. And that neither the candidates are the same, essentially, in that sense. It's idiotic. That is idiotic. Now, look, let me go through the list. You care about black and brown lives? What do you think about stop and frisk, which was found to be unconstitutional? How do you think that has an effect on the way police and the communities they interact with? What kind of outcomes do you expect from practices that are considered unconstitutional? Remember stop and frisk in New York City? Rudy Giuliani, he might be the head of the Department of Justice. What kind of outcomes are you expecting then? How about this? Forget about the Supreme Court for a second, which has a tremendous influence on issues like this. For example, illegal search and seizure. I mean, they make those rules, and that has a direct effect on the policing of communities. Now, if Kaepernick feels like, hey, harsher law and order rules are actually good for people of color, okay, fine, then you vote one way. If you think, no, it makes bad outcomes, then you vote another. But it's more, and it's deeper than that. The president also appoints lower federal judges who have great discretion in terms of sentencing guidelines. How about this? Because Jason Whitlock brings this up a lot. If you're talking about black and brown lives matter, in fact, interaction with police is not nearly as important as mass incarceration, which this election will also have an enormous impact on. For example, drug laws. I brought up search and seizure. I brought up all these other drug laws. They're finally starting to untangle the drug laws through the court, which will alleviate the problem over time of mass incarceration. If that gets all stitched back together, which based on who Trump is likely to appoint versus who Hillary was likely to appoint, it likely will get stitched back together. What do you think is going to happen to mass incarceration of black and brown folk? I mean, the idea that he treats both candidates the same because of systematic oppression as though they will have no effect on the system is so juvenile. It's either juvenile or extremely lazy. Shame on you, Colin Kaepernick. You know, smarten up, kid. He's not a college player. He's an adult, and he talks about how he's becoming socially conscious and he's getting his eyes open. Open them a little bit wider. How about this? Google it. It takes 5 seconds. How hard is this stuff? It is outrageous for him to make.
Okay, so I actually just meant to stop the clip, and I actually stopped myself instead. But I am back, and the clip is now stopped. So the point of me showing that is to say, hey, I really do believe, and I've actually cited this in an academic journal, I really do believe that Max Kellerman has a point here. And I feel that what we are looking at is a citizenry that is experiencing a different type of censorship. So I forget the name of the scholar who said this, but this is not my original idea. I borrowed this from a scholar whose name I will look up. He's also quoted in my email signature, in case you had emailed me. But this scholar has said, you know, modern day censorship, it doesn't work by trying to hide you from information. It works by bombarding you with low quality information. And I think that our citizenry on either side, so this is not just a liberal thing or a conservative thing. This is not just a Hillary thing or a Donald Trump thing. I know I have Donald Trump supporters in here. I know I have Hillary supporters and Bernie supporters and, you know, whoever Donald Trump ran against, whether that was Rubio or Cruz or whomever, you know, Jeb Bush, all of those good guys. You know, the thing is, no matter what side of the aisle you are on, there has been low quality information targeted at you. And that is something that you will need to be conscious of. And that's something that the entire citizenry needs to be conscious of. But having said that, in addition to saying that people need to be conscious of this stuff, I would also add that one thing that I do think that Max gets wrong here is he says, you can Google this stuff. It takes 5 seconds. How hard is this? I think that might be part of the problem too. People are just Googling and not sure what among their Google results is good and what among their Google results is bad. So I think that this is something that hopefully our field will be involved in working solutions for, because it is, I believe, a budding problem and a problem that will continue to get worse if people are unable to cope with the information that's coming at them, if they're unable to contextualize it and understand it properly, and to know what's good information from low quality information. So I really love that clip. It's now a clip that's almost 3 years old, but I think it's still just as relevant, and I think it's going to be, as we head into the Democratic primaries, and I believe that Trump also has a Republican primary challenger, even though I'm sure Trump will get the nomination. But as we head into primary season and then a general election, you know, these are the types of things that I hope that you all, given the field that you're going into, are understanding of the context of information and how it can affect societies. But I think that our field is also going to have to be involved in illustrating this for the greater society. Otherwise, we are going to have interesting things happening within our elections from here on out. And I don't mean interesting in a very good way. Now, again, I do need to just clarify one more time. This is not, I'm not attempting to be partisan here. So this is in no way me saying that the wrong person won in 2016. In fact, I think that that's impossible to know. I can't tell you whether or not we would be better off or worse off with Hillary Clinton than we would be with Donald Trump. It would be pure speculation and something that could never be proven. And so I will not try to prove it one way or the other. I just know that, you know, we have a fairly elected president that should be respected as such, and that he may or may not be reelected. And that's where we go from there. So having said that, that's where I'm leaving it right there, folks. Again, optional lecture. I hope you sped it up. I taught you all how to speed up lectures last week. And from there, you know, just get caught up on assignments and get caught up in discussion boards. Be on the lookout for grades. If you have questions, ask me. The easiest way or the quickest way to reach me, even though there can still be some delay, is by email, austinj@missouri.edu. And that is my time, and I am out.